Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Arun Patre. I represent Mazumdar Medical Foundation. We are India's only technology business incubator to be based within a corporate hospital setup. It's very rare for building a culture of research and translation research within a hospital centric environment in India. That's the challenge we're trying to address. By doing so, we'll be able to ensure we go from crisis to cure with the help of innovation of startups, the science from the research angle, and the clinicians who work in a hospital. The melting pot of all of them coming together is Mazumdar Medical Foundation. What is the ecosystem here and why is it special? We believe healthcare startups today in India will be able to solve problems in a much more effective way if they're based within a clinical setting. And there are multiple clinical settings for different challenges in healthcare. There are a few which are very germane to having to understand it in a tertiary hospital unit. There are others which is only relevant and seen while in a community healthcare setup like a primary healthcare center or an outreach unit. There are a few others which can be only developed and observed in a academic hospital or a teaching hospital. The melting pot of Mazumdar Medical Foundation is a congregation of all various varieties of healthcare settings. And for the tertiary hospital unit, we are based physically at the Narayana Health City, which is a 25-acre campus in Bangalore. This is the headquarters of the Narayana Health Group, which is spread across India and has 32 hospitals across the country. So the mother campus of Narayana Hridayala is where physically the foundation is based and the technology business incubator is. On a daily basis, the health city sees a footfall of nearly 5,000 patients on a daily basis. We have close to 250 specialist doctors who are here. So in total, in cumulative, we have about 2,400 beds comprising of the cardiac unit, multispeciality, cancer, Narayan Netralaya, which is the eye hospital, and the Sparsh Center for emergency and bone care. This is the physical infrastructure that's in access. Virtually, we have built a network of multiple hospitals across the country, whereas in a community as well as a teaching hospital setup. We form as an interface for startups who want to validate and prove their technology in this kind of a premise, in addition to understanding what is the regulatory know-how that is necessary to launch their product. Thirdly, what is the right kind of capital they would need to do so. If a startup who's working in an independent academic center or on their own in a silo versus working within a hospital ecosystem, they get access to a 24-hour interface, FaceTime with the clinicians, which is the most effective form of building the relevant solution in healthcare, because clinicians will give you first-hand feedback on if this is the right problem to solve and this is the right approach to solving it. And startups also need to understand clinician or the doctors are not their only customer. There are multiple customers for a healthcare startup. It's also the patient-centric angle. So how does a patient walk into a clinic? How do they, if they're in a certain clinical condition, how is their lifestyle? How is it that their solution the startup is making relevant to them? Also, the decision making of buying this innovation eventually is the hospital management. How do they evaluate this new technology? What's the basis of doing that? So, by being in a hospital setup, the hospital environment, the startups get to access all of these inputs firsthand. So we also have a clinical research team that works closely with the startup along with the scientists to define what is the right kind of validation this technology needs to undertake. What is the right amount of budget that is necessary to prove this also in an effective regulatory manner, be it FDA, CE, or the Indian equivalent based on the market that the startup wants to approach. That's the ecosystem that we have built here. How do we do it is through a very engaged and a defined process called the clinical immersion process. Think of it like a hot seat in a co-working space, whereas here the co-working space is actually a hospital, a large tertiary hospital setup, where you on a day-to-day basis can talk, ideate, and interface with all of the people that's relevant for taking your product from an idea to market. That's broadly, in a very crude form, what the clinical immersion program does for you. There's another element to why this ecosystem is very effective, also because of the primary pillars or the partners that make this possible. So Mazumdar Shaw Foundation is the only incubator in the country that is recognized by both Department of Science and Technology and Department of Biotechnology, BIRAC, to have an incubator status. And of course, like I've been talking about, Narayana Health as a primary clinical partner, in addition to the other hospital groups that is under the wing of the incubator. We also have Wilgrow, who's been a social impact investor for the past 20 odd years, who has got a great understanding of how to make the right balance between a socially relevant technology impacting the bottom of the pyramid. That's very much a goal, a combined goal for all of us together. So coming into this ecosystem gives you the right eyeballs in front of the stakeholders and the government who want to ensure healthcare ecosystem is impacted, a large hospital group such as Narayana, and Wilgrow, who's an investor. So this is the lens that you get modeled into by being part of this ecosystem. So how does this begin? How does the journey look like? You begin with a clinical question. You engage on this question with the clinicians within. So the team and the incubator interfaces the startup with the particular subject group on which they're looking at based on the specialty. What is the experimental design that one needs to set up to prove this technology? That's where the scientists in our network help you design this along with the clinician, so that you get the right form of design that's necessary for you to seek regulatory approval. We also have access to a biorepository facility to do all your experiments, as well as we have 4 kinds of labs that you get access to within the same physical infrastructure. That's the mechanical lab, electronics lab, artificial intelligence lab, and lastly the biological lab or the wet labs. Based on this, you generate your data. You get also help on biostatistics and getting the right form of evidence that is necessary for you to prove it in a large scale format, which helps you expand or take this idea to market. That's broadly the ecosystem at Mazumdar Shaw Medical Foundation. We're glad to be of help and speak to you about the relevant technology that you're developing. See you at the other end of the table. Thanks.